Tranche 2, Phase 2. We're listening to the live evidence of DCI Tony Waite, who was a manager of the Spycops unit. This afternoon he's been asked about what he knew about Bob Lambert and Bob Lambert's sexual relationships. I'm joined with Belinda, Harvey, who was deceived into an intimate relationship by Bob Lambert. What have you made of it?
Well, it seems that the managers were aware.
Very aware.
Certainly Tony Waite was aware that these relationships were happening. He describes it as kind of inevitable. And at one point he mentions the morale of the men, which made me think he potentially saw it as necessary for their morale to actually have the relationships, which is, you know, worse than just turning a blind eye, really. Yeah, and he also became informed of the pregnancy for Jackie.
It was kind of weird because he said that he thought it was a married woman.
Yes,
which...
yeah. Well, actually, the questioner did refer initially to it
to Jackie woman
as being married.
Well, yeah. I mean, the question was like that because basically he put it in his written statement that he was informed that Bob Lambert had got a married woman pregnant. And that it was almost a problem only because the woman was married.
Yeah, you know, as if it was less of a problem if she wasn't married.
Exactly, yeah. And then it was, but Tony Waite, he came to believe that this referred in fact to Jackie. But at first he wasn't sure who it related to. It was just some married woman. I mean, he said that not only did he think it was inevitable, but that it wouldn't be possible to do the job without getting involved. Yeah. And then once you've got involved, well, it's inevitable that pregnancies might happen.
Yeah, that is absolutely it, which is really different to what the previous undercover cops have been sticking to, which is that nobody knew about anything about anything, and not even the undercover cops knew about each other's relationships. I mean, it just seems that that's so incredibly unlikely. And yeah, Tony Waite has really confirmed what we were all suspecting, that it was just common practice, and you know, no regard was taken towards the women or the consequences, and that it was all just about, you know, keeping the morale of the men up, really.
Yeah, I mean, he says he didn't write it down.
No.
He says that he didn't. He then went and had a meeting with Tucker, who was his senior officer, and that he didn't. Ray Tucker, he didn't. That wasn't written down either. Yeah. He said he didn't know anything else about it. He said, he did some, you know, cursory investigations. Yeah. What kind of investigations? Well, he found out her name, and you know, was it? Yes, it was. Yeah. He said he had a conversation with Mike Barber, who was his the other manager who was below him. He said, Mike Barber would know more. He had a better contact with the unit than he did. But the way it was all treated, it was like, there was some trouble. And then we saw a minute from the 1985 annual report, which said that some problems had been effectively contained by Tony Waite. And he's asked what that's about, and he goes, I don't know. I don't think they knew about that. I didn't tell them. Might they have? Oh, it's possible.
Yeah, and this was immediately after, you know, during the pregnancy, so it was clear that they saw it as not a problem, which is incredibly offensive, and contrasts with other things that they thought were really important, like bank account, Green and Common Women, and Hackney CND, which and also descriptions of somebody's sexual orientation, comments about women's appearances,
how attractive they were, basically.
Yeah, that somebody, you know, one person was reasonably attractive, another was a token ugly person.
Token ugly woman.
Ugly woman.
The one was that her appearance was softened by the addition of a gorilla mask.
Yeah. I mean, really, please. And he justifies these comments as actually relevant and important.
But also jocular.
Yeah.
But there was important intelligence that was needed as descriptors, but also it was jocular and not meant to be taken seriously. He rejected the idea that there was any suggestion that there was a sexualised way of discussing women within the unit, because he said, this didn't mean anything at all. This being in the written, it's again this thing we've heard from the undercover cops, that somehow they were quite outrageous in their written reports, but when they spoke to each other, they were very respectful. Just like, what?
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't add up at all, does it? Really, you know, it's just incredibly, you know, he doesn't seem to actually want to say that it was a sexual environment when clearly it was.
Very clearly, yeah. No, it's been it's kind of frustrating with Tony Waite because a lot of the time he admits to things, but he does it in such an understated way. He just goes probably.
Yeah.
You know, and then when he's pushed on it, he's obviously the answer was actually yes, because he then goes on to like talk more about it. So it's obviously a real thing, but by saying probably or it's possible, he kind of covered himself in some way.
And then went on sometimes to say it was probable.
Yeah.
So I think he's actually given away quite a lot of information. You know, not really fully intending to, but at the end of the day, I suppose he's got less to lose in some ways than some of the other undercover cops. Yeah,
and I think he's got a lot less time on this earth ahead of him as well. I mean, he is clearly very elderly, clearly not well.
I'm not sure about him not being well. Really? Do you think?
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, just that he's old.
He is definitely old, but I mean, just being old doesn't necessarily dim your intellect. Really.
Oh no. When I say not well, I mean just like he's coughing a lot and like he's
physically. But I mean, it strikes me as somebody who has got a sharp mind, but doesn't necessarily want to use it. I mean, to some extent, to be, you know, maybe he just can't be bothered, or you know, to him it's not that important. But you know, really, this is a man, you know, who had a senior position, so. One would hope that he is an intelligent and thoughtful person, but he doesn't seem to be at the moment.
No, it's certainly. I mean, the callous sort of flippant way that he deals with all the stuff around sexual abuse. I mean, it is shocking. I mean, he even said at one point, "Oh, it's different times. It'll be different now." You know, but back then, you know, there's a shrug. I mean, he refers to it as a shrug of the shoulders, you know.
Yeah, but, you know, we're not really very impressed with that because, you know, morals are still morals, you know, and people still should be treated with respect.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a farce to claim that in 1985 that it was that different.
It really is. It's not that. I mean, it's a long time ago, but, you know, it's you know, people were still decent and you're still expected to be professional. Yeah,
I think that whole line was really expertly demolished by Diane Langford during the very first phase, where she just went through listing like some high-profile people from, you know, popular culture of the 1960s who were anti-racist, who were anti-sexist, and just pointing out that, you know, these are not new ideas. You know, the fact that some people behaved terribly back then doesn't mean that everybody was acting terribly and it was acceptable. None of these things have ever been acceptable.
No, they haven't. They really haven't. I mean, there was slightly different culture in the terms of jokes and things like that, but, you know, really, it's just unacceptable then as it is now. And, you know, and have attitudes changed within the police? I'm not convinced that they have, really.
I mean, from what we know of police culture right now, no, they haven't at all, not even in the slightest. You got the impression they may have got slightly worse in cases.
Yeah, really. I mean, if you know, things had changed in the police, there would be a lot more openness, I think, and these police would be being a lot more apologetic and not trying to cover things up and protect each other.
Yeah, I mean, you got the impression from Tony Waite that it's a case of, well, he's going, well, what's the problem? A bit, you know. It's like, so what? You know. Yeah. We've only got a short break. We better go back in. Is there anything else you want to add before we finish?
No, not at all.
Thanks for joining. We'll do a video at the end. Not sure who with. Might not be able to do one here. Might have to go on the street again, or maybe we'll get back to digs because staff always want to leave at the end of the day, which is fair enough. All right, bye for now.